understand something. Plain and simple. To me, Abigail was a delicious poison. An intoxicating, overwhelming poison. Yowie wowie! That felt good! Yowie wowie. Let me in.
Oh, don't mind us. We're just talking about salads a little bit, and that's all. Yeah. So thank you guys for joining us for another episode of Abby's One Day. And Jody, have you devoured your salad yet?
No.
You know what? I'm gonna leave this up on the screen.
I'm okay. It's fine.
Well, I'm gonna have you finish your salad.
I'm cool. It's okay. I ate most of it.
Okay. Well, I mean, hey, we don't want to take away from dinner time, so let me see. I will start out by shouting out some folks, and then we will get started because we've got a good bit to talk about tonight, which is fascinating because we haven't seen Bray Wyatt since December, and yet and still there are always things to talk about because he's just brilliant and the people around him are brilliant. And yeah, so we got a lot to talk about. So we've got Kevin Correa, Jen Carter, Liam Behan, Moda, let him in, Cheese Whiz, Cheese, Drift Lewis, the Texas-based Razzlin fan, Robert Morris, Big Dan, James Chadwick, Sean Suslowitz. Let's see who else. Jody is multitasking by being in the chat and eating a salad. So that takes talent, folks. Jason, Nathan Salas. Let's see who. Chad Schrader. Wrestling Lane. Somehow I got into the chat. Sean Rousset, Joey's Adventures, John Cena Gamer 0809, Eric Travis, Piers Wrestling. Let's see who else joined us. Chris DeZuba. Chris, you got to let me know what you've had to eat because I know you're going to. So let's just go ahead and talk about it since I haven't had.
He said he ordered Chinese food.
There you go. There you go. Big Boy Dally, Mayhem. Just mayhem. I like that. Seven Fiend. And there you go. Rusty Shackelford is in the house.
Hi, Rusty.
Joe is in the house. There we go. So, I think Jody has finished her salad. I have a little bit of a dinner envy right now because I have yet to have anything, but that's going to change. But Jesse Callan Corner just popped in. Josh Chessman, thank you for joining. Shane Loki, we got a crowded house tonight. I like it. Everyone seems to be ready to talk about all things Bray Wyatt, so let's do that. But before we do that, we'd just like to ask everyone, if you have not done so, please like this video, give us a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, we would invite you to subscribe. We do a lot of cool stuff here, including this show. We do a Tuesday night Impact watch along. For right now, we don't do anything on Wednesday, but that may change at some point because, wrestling changes a lot. So we have to adjust. And Thursdays, we have our Insiders Wrestling podcast every Thursday at 9. And then we do watch-alongs and, some other shows, sometimes some top 10 shows and that kind of thing, which we really need to do at some point. Again, we got to do another one. So, all right, Jody. There's a lot to talk about. Cult of Wyndham 83. Hey, how are you? If I miss you, I'm sorry, but we're gonna keep rolling. Chris, I just saw that you sent me something, so I'm gonna check it soon. But Jody, where do you want to start? Do you want to start with last Monday when Randy Orton, I don't know, saw the most dangerous person that he may face in a little bit, and that was himself. We got this image right here, so let's talk about that.
Whew. First of all, it's been 78 days without Bray Wyatt on TV.
But who's counting?
I am counting. So everybody's asking what my salad is. It's a Santa Fe chicken salad. The grocery store with the big circles on it.
There you go.
Copyrighted. Makes these little kits that has everything in it you need, dressing and everything, and you just mix it all together. So there you go. Yeah, so let's talk about that.
Yeah, because my goodness, I mean, that's
if you are a fan of horror, you love that segment because immediately you notice that Randy's eyes are different. And the first thing that I thought of was a couple of things, actually. First thing I thought of was a movie called The Crucifixion. And typically when people who are possessed get eyes like that and come up with the black goo, it's, a sign of a demon leaving the body.
mm-hmm.
The big question, I think, and I want to put this out to everybody. Do you think that and I think C Wrestling kind of hinted at this as well, about when he recorded that? Is it possible that he recorded that 2 weeks ago after he first spit up the black goo? You know what I mean? Or was obviously he pre-recorded it, but
Mm-hmm.
when did he have that particular moment where he was fully in that moment of being in that deep possession? So I want to know what you think. Could he have recorded it 2 weeks ago as he was walking backstage after he coughed up this black substance? Did he record it then?
Yeah. Let us know what you think in the chat, because I think it's very possible that happened. Rusty says, "What do you think the black goo tastes like? Pepperoni?"
I think it tastes like tea.
Ooh,
Which several people have said that now. I think C Wrestling was the first one to notice. He put it in one of his things you might have missed videos, and then my husband found it and pointed it out to me, and Joe posted something about it today. So yeah.
And shout out to C Wrestling. Keep up the videos, man. They're great, and
he's the investigator.
He is the investigator. So he's the Bray Wyatt private eye. So he is the sleuth of the Firefly Funhouse. So, but listen, Jody, you brought up T last week. You've been on target so much. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, let's talk a little bit now about when we saw Alexa and she's got the box in her hand. Let's talk about that for a moment. What was going through your head when you saw that, and hearing her speak and saying what she was saying? What were your thoughts at that point?
I immediately thought of The Conjuring. I mean, if you're a horror fan, you're automatically gonna, compare these two horror movies and I remember the music box in The Conjuring. It wasn't the same song, but it was, the same sound, just like that music box. And if you remember, in The Conjuring, that was how they saw the demon, in the mirror inside the box. So it just made me think of The Conjuring. I'm always going to try to figure out what movie that may have had inspiration from.
Yeah.
So yeah, I immediately just thought of that. I can't remember who sent this to me. I think it was one of my friends on Facebook had said that, what if it takes the next few weeks and we get each line of the song? So last week it was the first line. This week we get the second line, maybe on its own or maybe at the same time. Next week we get the next line, and all of that will the Pop Goes the Weasel part will be Fastlane.
Wow. I remember you sent me that.
Mm-hmm.
And my mind was blown. And then, because you just like, blowing my mind. Then you sent me something else that's a little bit unrelated, but it kind of is related, because we've heard the whole Pop Goes the Weasel thing before. Maybe we just didn't pick up on it.
Mm-hmm.
Tell everyone what you sent me that involved Alexa and involved that song I'll never forget it, 2 minutes and 4 seconds, I believe, of a video.
It was in I can't remember which one it was specifically now. It was in one of her old promos, and 2 minutes and 4 seconds into it, you hear that song. I can't remember what it was now.
And it was involving her
Was it with Nikki?
And with Nikki, yeah.
That's what I thought.
And you sent me that, and you said, just go to 204.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So then I go to 204, and I'm like, holy crap. Like, how, one, it's brilliant that it got tied in that way. And it's a little Easter egg yet again that, that upon first listen, you don't catch it. But then when you go back, it's like, okay, this is all of these elements are tied together. So do you think that's going to come to play at all? Like, do you think at some point we see her and Nikki again, or what do you think is going to happen with that? Because I think it's interesting that was put back out there.
Yeah. I definitely think we haven't really seen Alexa's side of the story and what she's going to do with this newfound power. If she's going to be doing something similar to the Fiend in getting revenge for her past and righting wrongs. And so I definitely could see her going down that route. I'm not sure where it's going to go. I think maybe the song had more to do with Alexa than it did Nikki.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think Alexa is still changing a little bit. I think when the Fiend comes back different, she may look a little different too. Yeah. Speaking of looking different, Mr. Scarborough left us some ew.
So yeah, let's go there. Let's go there because you brought it up, so we got to go there. So I don't know which one came first, but I'm going to start with the one that is Joe's nightmare fuel, and I'm going to go with that picture right there.
That one was titled "The Witch."
The Witch, and
The Witch.
I know someone on Twitter pointed it out, but a while back, WWE copyrighted
The Witch.
Okay. Scary stuff. Joe, avert your eyes because it's the stuff that nightmares are made of. So we got that.
It's just such a great picture. I mean, the detail and the Fiend's face is in the balloon and and it's like Kyle's just so great at what he does.
He really is. I mean, it's extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
And we get this.
Mm-hmm. I think that was the first one.
I believe this was the first one.
Mm-hmm. And again, you've got, you could equate that to Devil Vince with the horns, but you've also got the Fiend's pants. You've got the sheep mask. You've got the Fiend's mask. Like,
Yes. I mean, there's just so much here. And then let's go through real quick. Then we get this one.
The headless pig. I think that was the point, even though I know it's been mentioned several times in the past about the puppets coming darker. But when he posted this one, I think that's when I started to think, these are puppets. So, we've had the witch and now the pig. And I'm like, now the buzzard. And you're like, I'm starting to see a trend here.
And I got to give folks some insight here. So we get this one, right? She sends me a text message and she says, we're going to get the rabbit next. And then lo and behold, we get the rabbit next. And honestly, like, you said it. You said evil puppets. I believe it's evil puppets.
I was not the first person to suggest that, but yeah, I was like, oh, we're getting the rabbit next. It's been theorized and talked about for a long time, and everybody kind of got in on it. Everybody kind of had that theory, and it looks like we're seeing at least visuals of that coming to life.
Yeah, so let's talk about it. Those are dark, very dark.
Mm-hmm.
Could we, when this all returns, get a very, very different version of the Firefly Funhouse? And will it even be called that?
I mean, Kyle's one of those people that I think knows a lot, knows a lot of the backstory and what the plans are and what Bray wants to do with this. And, one of the benefits of being friends with Bray, I guess. But, I think I remember him saying to me once, like, sometimes I don't want to know what I know. I have remember him saying that when he was doing my tattoo, like, I don't want to know what I want to know, because who wants to know the ending of a good book? And you don't enjoy the journey as much. And I thought about that a lot. Like, would I want to know where it's going? And I wouldn't. Like, it's so much fun, enjoying the journey and theorizing, well, could it mean this or could it mean this? We also have to think about, where does that boar art play into it?
Mm-hmm.
He posted a long time ago. That was a Kyle piece as well, and well, I think a lot of the things that Kyle posts, he's finding these parallels between things like with the King in Yellow and all of the things that we talked about there. He's finding these parallels that just work and make sense. And that's what he's good at too. He's a big horror fan too. So we talked about that when he came on the show, but I think it's highly possible that we see this come to life in some form. I mean, that's how all the artwork with the Fiend started. He drew it and it came to life.
And I know Bill, and he mentioned animatronic puppets a la Chuck E. Cheese, but there's a horror movie coming out called Willy's Wonderland with Nicolas Cage. And I think if they're going that route, I could see it taking on that type of life, where if there are animatronics, I could see it being something super creepy like that, or Five Nights at Freddy's, something along those lines. What do you think about that?
Or do we see actual people start portraying these puppets?
That's an interesting thought. You got to tell me how you landed on that, because
I mean, it's just the way he drew them. He drew them as actual people, normal sized people. The way we've seen them, they're smaller, they're puppet size. So I don't know, with him drawing them bigger, could it be a possibility that you start having real people play these characters, sort of like a new Wyatt family?
So what you're saying is, spoiler alert, the witch is going to crawl backwards at some point. Like, it's going to happen, right?
Or I don't know, maybe in terms of real people playing these things, maybe these are different personas that Bray can go into. Maybe Bray is going to be playing some of these people. Alexa may be coming in and playing the witch. You know, like we've seen them inside the Funhouse. What if him being set on fire kind of destroyed that and set them free? Because they've always said, you know, that we've theorized that they're trapped inside the Funhouse.
Right.
Limbo. Well, now the Fiend's been murdered and set on fire. Maybe that has set them free.
Speaking of murdered, you sent me a screenshot from another friend of the show, Baker. Someone asked him about creating a new Fiend mask, and I will let you elaborate on what Mr. Baker said in response to that.
I have to go find it. Hold on. He said, no, well, I'll paraphrase it because he used some colorful language, but he said no because Randy Orton murdered him. So there's no point to make a mask for a corpse that doesn't have a face anymore. And remember when we talked about that King in Yellow theory that once again Kyle loves to make our brains work harder. And, you know, he always said that was kind of the point, that we're really reading into these things. That was kind of the purpose. You know, the whole thing with the King in Yellow part of the story is that when he removed his mask, he didn't have a face.
It's so interesting that he said it that way, because it's like, okay, now I'm in.
I mean, obviously you have to know. I don't remember if Jason ever told us that. I mean, obviously he knows a lot of the story.
Yes.
He even said then when we had him on the show, like it feels like eons ago, we had him on the show that we haven't seen anything yet. So he obviously knows things as well.
Yes. So all of this, I mean, there's so much that we just unpacked in the last few minutes. So
let it digest.
Digest for it. You know, let it digest for a second. All right. Starting tonight, do we see an acceleration in this storyline, in your opinion?
An acceleration? No.
No acceleration, same pace.
I think it's going to continue to be this slow burn. Kind of like I said earlier, I think we may get the second line of that song. And then next week we'll get the third line, and then Pop Goes the Weasel will be Fastlane. Definitely think this is going to continue to be that slow burn that we asked for. You know, when the whole feud with Randy started, everybody was like, this is too fast. This has to last until WrestleMania. Guess what? It's lasting till WrestleMania. That's where this is going to unfold. I mean, it's pretty inevitable at this point. We're going to get that Funhouse match. Randy is going to come face to face with everything that he's done, and he's going to have to face his fears.
Now, going into that, because I thought that was interesting, the dialogue last week. So you think we get another Funhouse match, but how does this one differ from what we got last year? How do you think this one will be a little bit different, if so?
I think it'll be a lot darker. I think the thing with Cena was trying to get him to see how different his path could have been had he taken a different road, which is the whole reason I think behind why he said, swing the chair and I'll show you what would have happened if you did back then. And he got him to swing the chair. So I think this is going to be a lot darker. It's going to be a lot more intricate. There's going to be so many to quote C Wrestling, so many things you might have missed in this match that we're going to have to go watch it at least a dozen times to really start to catch things, because Bray's really good at that. Look at the swamp match and that picture that I have on my wall. And for months, I didn't even see the urn on the floor in the middle of this picture, like hidden in plain sight. Like there's going to be so much in that match that we're going to have to watch it, like I said, several times and slow it down and freeze shot it and be like, what is that? And, that's part of the reason why we love Bray and what he's doing, because he forces us willingly to really look deeper into things and not take things at surface level. That's always what he's been good at. There's a deeper meaning to everything that he does. And it may look totally different on surface level, but if you really look and read in between the lines, and you'll figure out way more little things that he left for us to find.
Yeah. I mean, think about that. You have a piece of art in your home.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I'm saying, like, you have that piece, and then one day you're like, holy crap. Like, how did I not notice that, that part of it?
Right.
James Grant says this one will be much darker due to the history of Orton and Bray. Let's see here. Big Boy Dally says at this point, I think Bray's entrance at Mania is going to be one of the greatest in a while. Big Dan.
It's not one of the greatest of all time. I mean, say if we haven't seen him, if we haven't seen the Fiend until that moment, if they wait, which I think they probably will, I mean, if they really I'm almost asking as a fan at this point, I don't want any teasers of what he's going to look like. Just wait until that final moment at WrestleMania, the music starts and you're waiting for him holding up that lantern like he always does, and we don't know anything. And then the lights come up and you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, like especially with fans being back in attendance. I mean,
I know he really misses them, and really miss you too.
Yeah, so
Just being there.
you got to do something. I hope they wait too. I know people may be like, darn it, we've been waiting since December. Good things, in this case, great things come to those who wait. And I truly believe this is going to be great. Big Dan says, Bray knows exactly what he is doing. We are the marionettes on his puppet strings, and I love it. What about vignettes with silhouettes and sound effects like a witch cackling and a pig snorting?
I could definitely see parts of that in the match. That may be where we see, some of these darker puppets come to life. They may be using that, as weapons during that match. Kind of like the House of Horrors match that they had.
Yeah.
Way better. Not that I had an issue with the House of Horrors match. I actually really liked it, but
yeah,
way darker. Every person he comes across, and think about that too. What at these points in his career with Abby and Mercy and Huskus, try to think about what interactions Randy would have had with him at that point in his career. Or, whatever these puppets are trying to portray. Like, what interactions has Randy had with them? Or, especially with Abby, I think that's going to be the biggest part of that match.
Right.
I think we're definitely going to see Cult Leader Bray again. Yay.
I think so.
Because that was such a big part of their story. So
yeah, absolutely. Sincere Fiend says Alexa and Bray's plan is to show Randy all of his wrongdoings and will make him face his darkest fears imaginable. Let's see if Randy can overcome it and possibly change it to a better person. Just a guess of mine, though. What do you think about that statement?
I think that's when the darker puppets can come into play here, if they're having him face all of his wrongdoings, you know that Abby's going to be in there at some point because, you know, he set fire to her grave. So if he's making him face all of these wrongdoings and all of these fears, you know, you could definitely use these darker puppets to portray that and kind of be that antagonist during that journey.
Yeah. Joe just brought up a good comment, and I'm going to I'm going to say that unlike other people that Randy has faced recently, Bray will not be jumping ship to another place.
No.
Well, you know, I think he's going to be around for a little bit. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, he should no longer be known as a legend killer. He should be known as the legend mover or something. Because my goodness, yeah. So Jodie, Fastlane. What do you think do you think we get something huge at Fastlane? Do you think it's more of a continuation? Because again, you know, there are a lot of different things that are at play here. Obviously, this is WWE's first event on Peacock, so they're to want to make a big splash. Do you think they do the reveal there? Hopefully not. Or do you think we get something big that kind of whets the appetite that, you know, makes us want more?
I don't think we get a reveal at Fastlane. Like I said, I think they're going to save that for WrestleMania because remember we had this long talk about the networks and USA wanted the darker content. Peacock wants the sports. So Fastlane is still going to be shown, to the best of my knowledge, to my current knowledge, on both the WWE network and on Peacock.
Okay.
Yeah, will just be on Peacock, which is why I think they're going to wait until WWE Network is no longer in the United States to make that big splash. I do think we get something bigger to whet our appetite and keep us going. Maybe it's the return of Funhouse Bray, or Cult Leader Bray steps in and starts messing with Randy a little bit more. I know there's a lot of speculation on whether it's going, you know, Randy and Alexa have a match. I really just don't see that happening. It's not something that WWE does very often in terms of mixed gender matches. So I just don't really see them doing that, but I definitely see something bigger happening to progress this storyline, get us a nice, partially satiated appetite, and then, you know, we get the full course and dessert at WrestleMania.
And we're hungry. We're hungry. Jeff Samuel says, does this make Randy forget everybody for what he did to them, and he acts woken or blame himself for wrong things like he did, like broken Matt Hardy?
It depends where they want to go with Randy after all this. You know, is this going to be a positive thing for Randy as well in terms of changing his career or, you know, rebranding him, I guess, is another way to put it. You know, what are they going to do with him going forward? Randy's been one of those people that really hasn't changed, which is one of the things I actually really like about him. He's stayed relevant and pretty true to his original, you know, the way he was. And he really hasn't changed a lot. He's still pretty much the same Randy as he always has been. And, you know, I think that's something that's really rare, to be able to have that kind of longevity by staying the same or pretty much the same. So it really just depends where they want to go with him afterwards. I definitely could see him not being around for a little while, taking some time off. Obviously, you know, that may play into what vacations he has planned, you know, so maybe he takes that time to take a vacation, and maybe he comes back altered, but maybe he comes back darker. And, you know, the the more heel-ish Randy,
which
is great. So
yeah, I mean that's just great.
He's such a good heel. I love it. So, Randy's never been one to be a face. He's always kind of been that heel. And like I said, I like that about him. So
yeah. And let's be honest, Randy Orton is at his best when he's a heel. And not just, kind of teetering on the edge of doing heelish things. I'm talking about a dick. Like, I mean, just being an absolute jerk when Randy's at his best. Joey's Adventures says, Jodie, do you think last week was a hint that the Fiend will now talk when he returns in that devil voice?
I don't think that was the Fiend talking at all. I've talked to a lot of people about that. Was it really Randy Orton, or was it the Fiend who just shapeshifted into Randy Orton, which is something that a lot of demons have the ability to do, is to change their appearance. I don't think that it was the Fiend pretending to be Randy Orton. I think it was Randy Orton. And I don't think it was the Fiend possessing Randy Orton. I think that was Randy Orton's inner demon. It was true, inner, dark, completely, his deepest, darkest inner darkness.
I like that. So here's a question that I have for you. Do you think we find out that Randy is terrified of what he saw? Do we find that out tonight?
I think you have to be careful with Randy when it comes to fear. Just because of the character that he's portraying, with being this big heel, nobody can touch me, blah, 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 which is what he's really good at. I think if you start to push him to the point that he's visibly afraid, you can sometimes push that too far. I think it would be very appropriate for him to be shaken over what happened. There have been points where he's been like, what the hell just happened? But in terms of true, complete, unadulterated carnal fear, I think you need to save that for the match.
You know what? I was already invested in the match, but what you just said, I want to see this match yesterday, because I mean, just that explanation there just makes me want to see this even more, because this is brilliant. And Joe brings up a point. And I think we need to talk about this, but first, because people are noticing the shirt, Jodie. People know what's on your shirt, because they love it, and I'm seeing a lot of comments about it.
It says nurse.
I'll be there for you.
I got it in Myrtle Beach.
I'm not singing the Friends. Don't ask. Okay. So obviously, in a few people, I know Butterspark said it, and a few other people have said it. But let's take a break for a moment from the story, and let's talk about the two people that are involved in the story. Well, the three people that are involved in the story, but primarily Bray and Randy. You can really see that Randy is into this, and that this is putting Bray over in a major way. Tell me a little bit about what you're seeing from Randy that lets you know that he's invested in this, and that this is going to be something special.
I mean, it's just that the chemistry that they have with each other, it's undeniable. Like, when you have that kind of chemistry with somebody in the ring, outside of the ring, and personally, in your real life, it's I would compare it to, the kind of chemistry that he has with Braun Strowman. They're so connected with each other because they're friends on a real level, that it's going to naturally translate into the ring as well. And I think that's probably a similar case with him and Randy. I think, I can definitely picture them having these, deep talks about where Bray wants this story to go and what he wants to do. Like, they couldn't do any of this without Randy being on board. And especially for it to go this long and go as seemingly dark as Bray wants it to, I think Randy has to be on board for that. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to sell it. So I definitely think he's been involved in understanding where this story's going, why it's going that way. And, as much as Randy's putting Bray over, Bray's putting Randy over too.
Exactly. And that's what good storytelling in wrestling is all about.
Mm-hmm.
The folks that are involved putting each other over.
And the same with Alexa Bliss. Like, they're putting each other over right now.
Exactly. And it's brilliant storytelling. And it just lets you know that these three, years from now, whatever we get at WrestleMania, years from now, I feel like we're going to say, do you remember when this started in 2020 and carried over and we got that amazing match and moment at WrestleMania 37? I really do think that we're going to get there. Rusty asking, does anyone think that Braun might rejoin the story?
I don't know. There's definitely something to be said that the white sheep mask was in one of Kyle's pictures. The white sheep mask did not belong to Braun.
That's true.
But we've also seen a lot of other people wear that white sheep mask too. We've seen a whole choir of children wearing that white sheep mask. So
also very true.
I don't know. There's obviously something really good building with Braun Strowman right now and Shane McMahon, and I think that's going to be fantastic. Just putting that out there. I'm all on board for that. I'm super excited.
Just know that Shane's going to take a crazy bump somewhere.
He's going to jump off the pirate ship or something ridiculously insane that you're just like, why would you ever do that as a human being? Like, and not my nurse brain,
Yeah.
Why are you doing that?
Yeah. Let him in. Ask, how do you think it would have gone if John Cena had given in to Bray and turned heel?
I think it would have gone how Bray portrayed it to. I think it could have taken Cena to a new level. For sure. He definitely could have gone to a completely new level.
Agreed. Mayhem says, guys, what if the black goo is the ashes of the Fiend mixed with the person's saliva? Alexa did use his ashes in her ritual. Is that the water element that C Wrestling talked about in his?
I think that's definitely possible too, because if you remember, Bray baptized himself in Abby's ashes and he had a black face. If that would have been mixed with water, that's highly possible. I think there's several different directions you can go down here. The horror people who are big fans of horror movies, especially those kinds of horror movies, will see it as, demonic possession and a sign of demonic possession, but it could definitely be that too.
Yeah. I'm so jazzed about that. Okay, let me stop before I get myself worked up too much. So Eric Travis, if you don't like Russo, he made a good point. Alexa Bliss is a good character, and she gets it. That's the point. And she gets it. That's missing in pro wrestling. I will have to say that I don't know if you saw this, Jody, but Vince Russo put Bray over big time, as well as Alexa, in terms of the storytelling. And he was talking about how he felt that Bray's creativity might be why WWE hasn't allowed him to really flourish, because a direct quote from Vince Russo saying he comes up with better creative than creative does. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I think he definitely, look, we know that Bray is a creative genius. We've all thought that. All his friends that we've talked to have said that about him. But it's not always everybody's style. You can't build an entire show around him. You have to be able to bring in other elements as well. And that's totally fine. That it's not everybody's style. He's very different from your traditional WWE creative writer.
Mm-hmm.
Be creative is going to be sometimes looking at short-term goals. And I think sometimes they can be a little short-sighted with things, especially with storylines that, they'll be there for a couple weeks and then they'll just disappear and think that we'll forget that they ever existed.
Mm-hmm.
But Bray has this natural ability to create that long-term story that I think sometimes WWE creative is missing. So in my opinion, it's an asset.
Yes. And listen, WWE, if you're listening, give the man the ball and let him run with it. Just give the man the ball and let him run.
Let him run with his own ball.
Exactly. You don't need to share. He let him do his thing. Sincere Fiend says, I do have a question. Once Bray's done righting all the wrongs of his past, then where does he go? Will he go after new people, or will we see stuff that happened off camera in Bray's past?
I think there's always going to be people that are going to continue to wrong him. And as long as you always have people that continue to wrong him, he will never be done with revenge. Revenge is one of those tricky, elements of life that it's a circle and it just never stops. So
yes,
keep going around this circle with whoever else,
I agree.
Eventually, maybe he'll get done with it and he'll just want to watch the world burn.
There you go.
Either way, I'm on board for it.
Yeah, I mean, we're here. So Kevin Hefferner says, was I hearing things, or did Alexa say bring it back last week instead of bringing him back?
The way I heard it and the way it's been posted by WWE themselves, she said bring him back.
Okay.
I did have to listen to it a couple of times. I was like, because I said the same thing. I'm like, did she say bring it back or bring him back? But then when WWE started posting about it, they clearly said bring him back. I think the first post they made was Alexa, in quotes, bring him back.
There you go. Wrestling Lane, what if tonight we see Randy go to the Funhouse to find Alexa? He gets inside the Funhouse and something pushes him into the pentagram, and we see the evil puppets laughing with Alexa.
I don't really see much of the Funhouse happening anytime soon. Kind of like I said, I think I could see Funhouse Bray coming back through Alexa's playground. That's kind of his safe space has been ruined.
Yes.
Maybe she kind of came into his safe space. Maybe she lets him in to her safe space, and that's how he comes back. I still want, I'm gonna say it till I'm blue in the face. I still want that segment where Alexa's sitting on the swing talking to herself, and then she looks over and all you see is Alexa, and she looks over and goes, "What do you think?" And then the camera pans over and Funhouse Bray's just sitting there.
Good.
I think the entire WWE universe would just be like, oh my gosh.
You remember the guy when Undertaker lost, that everyone was circulating that meme of that guy, and he was there like,
Mhm.
you're gonna see like millions and millions of people doing that if that happens. Because I know people are asking because we got some Retribution chat in the chat. Does he finish off Retribution? Does he end them? Do you think he comes back and has anything to do with them?
Again, I think it depends what they want to do with Retribution. If they want to bring that hacker angle back, there was the Fiend's face in one of his screens. So if you want to bring that back and reintroduce that back into the story, I definitely think you could see something between Ollie and the Fiend. Whether or not that includes all of Retribution, I don't know, but I definitely think you could reintroduce that story.
Yeah. Joey's Adventures. What's a bigger match at this point? Fiend versus Lashley or Fiend versus Drew?
I'm going to say Fiend versus Lashley. I'm going to go with that.
Yeah.
I just think that would be both of them would be a hell of a match. But I just think the Fiend versus Lashley would just be that much bigger.
You really want to cement Lashley.
Mm-hmm.
And if you really want to take him to the next stratosphere, because let's be honest for a minute. He's not a young guy. So he's not going to get a lot of title opportunities. So if you want to take him and make him like mega, mega popular and make his reign mean that much more, put him in a ring, put him in a feud with Bray, put him in whatever iteration of this character that we get come WrestleMania, put him in a feud with him and watch how Lashley takes off. Can you imagine MVP and Lashley, they're in the ring and they're getting played with, in terms of mind games.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God. I got to stop fantasy booking that in my head. Man, that would be crazy. Delanio, thank you for joining. Yeah, man, I got just thinking about that right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just crazy. My gosh, that's pretty crazy. So we're near the end, unfortunately. I mean, like this show just goes by so fast. So as I always do, I ask you, what do you think we get tonight, and how does that lead into next week?
I think we get the second line of that song. Obviously, some response because Alexa did tweet over the weekend and said, make sure you get your Thunderdome seat for Raw so you can watch me. So I definitely think we get the second line of that song tonight. And Randy responding to whatever he saw or whatever he thinks he saw last week. I'm sure he will come out and, say, this is all Alexa's doing. She's messing with me. I've got to get her out of my head. That's kind of how I see that going. We'll just get, the bread.
Mm-hmm.
Appetizer. I'm going to go back to food a lot.
We have a very healthy appetite.
I'm a foodie and I like to eat. So
same. We have a very healthy appetite for this story, and I can't wait. And it's interesting. I don't think I asked you about this earlier. Very interesting that WWE posted this stuff today about Alexa's transformation.
Mm-hmm.
Where is that coming from? Where do you think we go with that?
Well, you add that to Alexa's tweet about being in the Thunderdome so you can watch her. You definitely could see more of a progression with her character for sure. Maybe we see her get a little bit. Maybe we see the white contacts Alexa tonight. Maybe we see her darker side doing something with Randy.
I like it. This why is this so great?
Because Bray Wyatt's great.
I mean, this is brilliant, and I know some people aren't fans of it, and you know what? Whatever. That you like what you like, and it is what it is. But those of us who are into it
Are really into it.
we're really into it.
We're not just dipping our toes in the water. We're neck deep in water at this point.
Yeah, I mean, there's no more just I mean, we're submersed at this point.
Mm-hmm.
We are fully submersed at this point, and wow, I can't wait to see what we get tonight. Jodie, anything else you want to share with our amazing group of people that have joined us tonight? We had about 60 people at a given time consistently in the chat. So anything you want to say to the folks before we head off?
I love all of you guys so much.
Same here. This is all fun because you guys come with your theories too. And, this is just, you guys make it fun and enjoyable, and you give us things to kind of go off on and ask questions about and theorize even more. So thank you guys so much for, just coming to the show every Monday and joining in. And what do you say, Jodie, next week?
Mm-hmm. Right now, I say
Puppet watch. But stay tuned because something big happens.
You might just see this beautiful face again later.
Not saying, I'm just saying.
You might. We'll see.
Just saying. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Really, really appreciate it. Again, like we said earlier, if you have not done so, please like this video. And if you're new, subscribe to the channel. Please. We'd love it. And, if you want to know when we're, going on, because you never know, something big might happen, and you might need to have a notification on of when we might be going live. So hit that post notification bell too. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Stay safe. Enjoy Raw tonight. And if we don't see you for the rest of the Insiders programming this week, we will see you again next Monday night for another episode of Abby's Window. Take care, everyone.
La